The radar does not know the difference between a fisherman and a combatant. That is not a limitation of the radar. It is a limitation of physics. A fiberglass hull, 8 meters long, produces a radar cross-section between 0.4 and 1.2 square meters, depending on aspect angle, hull geometry, and the metallic content of its equipment. A Peykaap-class IRGCN fast attack craft, with its composite hull, low freeboard, and weapons stowed below deck, produces a radar cross-section between 0.6 and 1.4 square meters, depending on aspect angle, hull geometry, and whether the crew has deployed any radar reflective equipment. At 28 nautical miles in moderate sea state, on a radar sweep updated every 4 seconds, the SPY-6 sees both as small surface contacts. Both produce intermittent returns. Both disappear and reappear as wave crests obscure their hulls between sweeps. Both have the same speed range. A commercial fishing vessel making for port at dawn runs at 12 to 16 knots. An IRGCN fast attack craft at loiter speed to maintain formation cohesion runs at 12 to 18 knots. The destroyer is operating in the Persian Gulf, 48 nautical miles northeast of Bahrain, in the middle of the Gulf's central fishing ground that had been productive since before recorded history, and which, in any 12-hour period between 3 a.m. and dawn, might see 80 to 200 fishing vessels transiting from their overnight grounds toward port. At 4:19 a.m. on this particular morning, 60 contacts were on the surface search picture between bearings 042 and 071, range 22 to 31 nautical miles, closing on an intercept course. The Intelligence Watch Officer's assessment delivered in 18 seconds after the watch team flagged the contact density. Contact count is consistent with the normal pre-dawn fishing transit in the sector. Vessel profiles are consistent with typical Gulf fishing dhow and small motorized craft. No confirmed fire control emissions. No weapons signatures detected. Cannot rule out adversary assets mixed into the contact picture. Cannot rule out. That was the operational state the rules of engagement were designed to address. The standing orders for this theater contained the positive identification requirement. Before engaging a surface contact with the 5-inch gun, CIWS, or any missile system in surface mode, the commanding officer was required to have positive identification that the contact was a hostile force. Positive identification meant one or more of observed hostile action, observed weapon system in threatening configuration, electronic emission consistent with fire control targeting, or visual confirmation of weapons at a range consistent with imminent threat. At 4:19 a.m., none of the 60 contacts had met any of those criteria. They were surface contacts with fishing vessel radar profiles approaching at 12 to 16 knots in a sector that fishing vessels transited at this time of day every morning. They were also 48 nautical miles from Bahrain in a theater where the IRGCN operated mixed composition surface groups with documented patterns of using civilian traffic as cover for approach operations. The TAO had 2 options, and neither of them was comfortable. Option 1, treat all 60 contacts as potential threats and begin maneuvering and weapons preparation under the assumption that some fraction of them were IRGCN fast attack craft. Under this option, the ship would be in a posture to engage if any contact met the positive identification criteria. The risk was the identification requirement itself. If the contacts were genuine fishing vessels and the ship's defensive reactions looked aggressive to them, the tactically correct response was indistinguishable from the tactically incorrect one until the contacts either attacked or did not. Option 2, continue monitoring the contacts as probable civilian traffic and wait for any contact to meet the positive identification criteria before transitioning to a combat posture. Under this option, if the contacts were in fact an IRGCN surface operation, the ship would be allowing a fast attack group to close from 28 nautical miles to engagement range before initiating any defensive response. IRGCN fast attack craft at 35 knots covered 28 nautical miles in 48 minutes. If the contacts were closing at 16 knots now and accelerated to 35 knots inside 12 nautical miles, which was the IRGCN's documented attack initiation range, the gun engagement window would open at 9 nautical miles, approximately 15 minutes after the acceleration was detected. In that 15 minutes, the gun would need to engage whatever portion of the 60 contact picture had revealed themselves as hostile, while other contacts remained unidentified. The Seahawk launched at 4:20 a.m. The helicopter was the identification tool. The FLIR could distinguish a fishing dhow from a fast attack craft at 3 to 5 nautical miles if conditions were clear. The identification problem: 60 contacts at 22 to 31 nautical miles. At 3 to 5 nautical miles effective FLIR identification range from the Seahawk, identifying all 60 contacts would require the helicopter to cover the entire contact field. A 9 nautical mile arc at 29 nautical miles range. At 140 knot helicopter speed, systematically sweeping the contact field required approximately 18 to 22 minutes. The contacts were 22 nautical miles away. At 16 knots, they would be at 12 nautical miles in 37 minutes. The Seahawk could complete approximately 60 to 70% of the FLIR identification sweep before the contacts reached the IRGCN attack initiation range. 30 to 40% of the contacts would be unidentified when any attack began. Running count: 4:20 a.m., second 60. 60 surface contacts, bearing 042 to 071, range 22 to 31 nautical miles, speed 12 to 16 knots. FLIR ID required before engagement. Seahawk airborne, beginning ID sweep. Time to attack initiation range, 12 nanometers, 37 minutes. Time to gun range, 9 nautical miles, 47 minutes. SM6, 8, not applicable to surface contacts at range. SM2 surface mode, available. ESSM, not applicable. RAM, 21, surface mode available. Gun, 600 rounds. CIWS, surface mode available. Cost, $0. The Seahawk began its sweep from the northern edge of the contact field, working south across the 9 nautical mile wide arc. At 4:24 a.m., the first identification results came back. Contact 1. Fishing dhow, wooden hull, 12 meters, nets deployed. Civilian. Contact 2. Motorized fishing vessel, 8 meters, crew visible, ice chest on deck, civilian. Contact 3. Composite hull, no visible nets or fishing equipment, 2 crew in dark clothing. The FLIR operator noted the absence of fishing equipment and the posture of the crew, upright, scanning, not engaged in fishing operations at a time when fishing vessels would typically be either hauling or transiting with catch. Not confirmed hostile, not confirmed civilian. Flagged for secondary pass. Contact 4, fishing dhow, civilian. Contact 5, fishing dhow, civilian. Contact 6, composite hull, similar profile to Contact 3, flagged. Running count: 4:24 a.m., second 302, Seahawk ID sweep, 6 of 60 contacts. 4 civilian, 2 flagged. Contact field, range 20 to 29 nautical miles, speed 12 to 16 knots. Gun, not yet engaged. SM2, 24. RAM, 21. CIWS, 100%. Time to 12 nanometer threshold, 29 minutes. Cost, $0. 2 flag contacts in the first 6. That ratio, 2 possible fast attack craft out of 6 identifications, was statistically concerning if it held across the full contact picture. If the ratio held, the 60 contacts would contain approximately 20 mixed-profile vessels. Not all 20 would be fast attack craft, but 20 flag contacts was 20 identification problems that required either a second FLIR pass or a visual call from a shorter range. The Seahawk continued. Contact 7, fishing vessel. Contact 8, fishing vessel. Contact 9, composite hull, crew not visible, no fishing equipment, antenna array on the stern consistent with military-grade radio equipment, flagged with higher confidence. At 4:28 a.m., with the Seahawk having completed identification passes on 24 contacts, the picture was 18 confirmed civilian, 6 flagged as possible, fast attack or mixed-use vessels. The identification pace was slowing because the contacts were maneuvering relative to each other as the fishing vessels adjusted course for port, and the formation's internal geometry changed between sweeps. Some contacts that had been clearly separated on the first pass were now clustered with other contacts, requiring the helicopter to adjust its survey path. And one contact had changed behavior in a way that the Seahawk crew called to the ship at 4:28 a.m. Contact 3, the one we flagged on first pass, has accelerated, was doing 14 knots, now making approximately 22 knots, bearing adjusted to 219. It's no longer on a port intercept course. It's on an approach course toward the ship. 22 knots, bearing adjusted directly toward the destroyer. Contact 3 had met the positive identification criteria by action. A vessel with no fishing equipment, crew in observation posture, accelerating from transit speed to 22 knots and altering course toward a warship at 4:28 a.m. in the Persian Gulf was not a fishing vessel whose crew had decided to pay a social call. Contact 3 was a hostile surface contact. The Seahawk simultaneously identified Contact 9 as following the same acceleration and course change pattern. Contact 9 was on a parallel approach vector to Contact 3, 1.2 nautical miles to the north. 2 confirmed hostile contacts. Bearing 200, 19 to 220, range 19.4 and 18.7 nautical miles, speed 22 knots and accelerating. The identification criteria had been met for 2 contacts. The remaining 58 had not yet been engaged by the criteria. The gun could engage contacts 3 and 9. It could not yet engage the other 58. Fire on contacts 3 and 9. Seahawk, continue identification. I need the remaining contacts identified before they close to 12 nautical miles. Running count, 4:29 a.m., second 596. 2 contacts confirmed hostile. Contact 3, 18.7 nautical miles, 22 knots, and Contact 9, 19.4 nautical miles. 58 contacts unidentified, range 19 to 28 nanometers. Gun, engaging contacts 3 and 9. Seahawk, 24 of 60 contacts identified, 18 civilian, 6 flagged. Time to 12 nanometer threshold, 24 minutes. SM-2 surface, authorized on confirmed hostile contacts only. Cost, $0. The 5-inch gun engagement at 18 to 19 nautical miles was at the outer edge of its effective surface engagement range. At 19 nautical miles, the flight time of a 5-inch round was approximately 23 seconds. In 23 seconds, a 22-knot contact moved 215 meters. The fire control solution had to predict the contact's position 23 seconds ahead of the firing point. Against a contact moving at consistent speed on a consistent bearing, this was manageable. Against a contact that was maneuvering tactically, it was more difficult. Contact 3 was maneuvering. The FLIR track from the Seahawk showed it turning 12 to 15 degrees left and right in an irregular pattern. Not evasion. The pattern was too shallow for evasion of a naval gun at this range, but tactical zigzag to complicate fire control prediction. The Seahawk crew was calling corrections in real time. Left 8 degrees, now right 12, now back left, speed approximately 28 knots. First proximity round left by 35 meters per Seahawk. Gun corrected. Second round over by 20 meters. Third round near, contact slowing to 24 knots and turning right. Fourth round, Seahawk. Impact vicinity. Contact appears to have slowed, maybe damaged. Fifth round. Seahawk, contact has stopped. Running count. 4:30 a.m., second 662. Seahawk ID, 41 of 60 completed. 29 civilian, 10 flagged, 2 engaging. Contacts 3 and 9, confirmed hostile, gun engaging. Contact 3, range 18.7, nautical miles, 28 knots. Contact 9, range 18.1 nanometers. SM2, 24 held. RAM 21. CIWS 100%. Time to 12 nanometer threshold 17 minutes. Cost $0. Contact 3 neutralized. 5 rounds. Contact 9 had accelerated to 31 knots during the engagement with Contact 3 and was now at 18.1 nautical miles on a direct approach. The gun shifted. First round, short. Second, left. Third, Seahawk. Direct impact, contact stopping. 4 rounds, 1 contact. 31 nautical miles of approach corridor. 9 rounds, 2 contacts neutralized. At 4:33 a.m., the Seahawk had completed identification passes on 41 contacts. 29 confirmed civilian, 10 flagged, 2 already engaged. The remaining 19 contacts had not yet been identified. The flagged 10 included 3 that the Seahawk crew was rating as high-confidence hostile based on equipment profile, crew behavior, and heading. They were maintaining approach courses rather than adjusting for port. SM2 surface mode against the 3 high-confidence hostile flags, awaiting your call. The SM2 in surface mode against small, fast attack craft. The weapon was not optimized for this role. The SM2 surface mode required a radar lock on a target, with enough return to maintain track through the semi-active seeker's terminal phase. A 0.6 to 1.4 square meter contact at 16 to 17 nautical miles, possibly maneuvering, was a marginal SM2 surface engagement at this target size. The expected hit probability against a small, fast attack craft in surface mode was significantly lower than against a large surface contact, estimated at 35 to 50% per round in this configuration. The SM2 was expensive, marginally effective against this target type, and would consume cells the ship might need if the situation escalated into a larger coordinated action. The gun was cheaper, slower, but more accurate at close range. Hold SM2. Gun takes the high-confidence contacts when they meet the criteria. Seahawk, finish the identification sweep. 3 more contacts accelerated and altered course in the next 4 minutes. The acceleration and course change met the positive identification criteria. The gun engaged all 3, sequencing between them. 12 rounds total, 4, 4, and 4. 3 contacts neutralized at 14 to 16 nautical miles. Running count. 4:37 a.m., second 1,104. 5 contacts neutralized by gun. 55 remaining, 29 confirmed civilian, no threat action. 8 flagged, monitoring, 18 unidentified. 3 contacts currently meeting engagement criteria. Gun, engaging. 5-inch rounds expended, 21. SM2, 24 loaded, held. RAM, 21, held. Time to 12 nanometer threshold, 9 minutes. Cost, $37,800 gun ammunition. The next 12 minutes were the most cognitively compressed of the engagement. The Seahawk was completing identification sweeps while simultaneously calling fire corrections for the gun. The gun was cycling between contacts that had met the engagement criteria. The fire control system was tracking 55 remaining contacts in surface search mode flagging new contacts as their behavior changed and updating engagement priority queues. At 4:39 a.m., 4 more contacts accelerated simultaneously. The Seahawk confirmed hostile behavior on all 4 within 90 seconds. The gun had 3 of them. The 4th contact was on a bearing that took it through the civilian fishing vessel cluster, and the gun could not engage it without risk to confirmed civilian contacts within the round's fragmentation radius. Contact 28, hold fire. Seahawk, can you identify the contacts immediately flanking Contact 28? The Seahawk did a quick sweep. 2 fishing dhows flanking Contact 28 within 400 meters. The gun held. Contact 28 continued closing. The Seahawk made the call. Contact 28 is now at 11.8 nautical miles. Flanking civilians are at 11.6 and 11.9 nautical miles. If Contact 28 continues approach, it will separate from the civilian contacts within approximately 90 seconds as the fishing vessels turn for port. 90 seconds. The ship waited. The gun was engaging the other 3 confirmed contacts. Contact 28 continued on approach course. The 2 flanking fishing dhows turned northeast, port approach, separating from Contact 28's bearing at 4:41 a.m. Contact 28 is clear. Bearing 219, range 11.3 nautical miles, speed 34 knots. The gun engaged Contact 28. 4 rounds. Contact stopped. Running count. 4:41 a.m., second 1,319. 9 contacts neutralized by gun. 51 remaining. Seahawk YD sweep. 52 of 60 contacts identified. 31 confirmed civilian. 11 confirmed hostile action met. 9 neutralized, 2 engaging. 10 unidentified, 1 flagged awaiting action. Gun, 42 rounds expended. Time to 12 nanometers threshold, passed. Closest remaining unidentified contact, 11.1 nanometers. Cost, $75,600 gun ammunition. 7 more contacts met the hostile criteria in the next 8 minutes, 5 by acceleration and course change, 2 by observed weapons deployment that the FLIR captured at close range. The gun engaged all 7 sequentially. Not all contacts waited their turn. 4 reached within 9 nautical miles before the gun cleared the queue ahead of them. And those 4 accelerated to maximum speed inside 9 nautical miles, 35 to 42 knots, the IRGCN Peykaap's maximum. The gun had to solve fast-moving targets at close range. 2 contacts reached 6 nautical miles. Ram cells 1 through 4 against the 2 closest contacts. Ram in surface mode, passive infrared seeker, no sea clutter problem at close range against a fast attack craft's engine thermal output. 2 intercepts. Both contacts stopped. The final IRGCN contact that had been holding back, Contact 47, which the Seahawk had flagged early, but which had not accelerated until the main group was already being engaged, made its move at 4:51 a.m. from 14 nautical miles, accelerating directly toward the ship at 38 knots. Single contact, no cover, identified by action. The gun engaged immediately. 6 rounds, 3 corrections. Contact stopped at 11.4 nautical miles. Running count, 4:52 a.m., 2nd, 1994. Gun, 93 rounds expended. Ram, 2 expended. 21 hostile contacts, all neutralized. 31 civilian, proceeding to port undamaged. 8 flagged, behavior civilian throughout. Seahawk completing final sweep. SM-6, 8 loaded, not used. SM-2, 24 loaded, not used. ESSM, 32 not used. CIWS, 100% not used. Cost, $1.97 million. Time, 33 minutes. At 4:54 a.m., the Seahawk completed its final identification sweep. All 60 contacts had been positively identified. 31 confirmed civilian fishing vessels, all on port approach courses, none engaged. 21 confirmed hostile contacts, all neutralized. 8 contacts that had been flagged but never met the hostile criteria. They had maintained fishing vessel behavior and port approach courses throughout. 8 contacts that might have been fast attack craft and which were carrying no fishing equipment, according to the Seahawk FLIR, but which had behaved as fishing vessels for the entire duration of the operation. Their nature was not definitively established. Running count: 4:54 a.m., 2nd 2120, 60 contacts fully identified, 21 hostile, all 21 neutralized, 31 confirmed civilian, not engaged, 8 flagged, no hostile criteria met, not engaged. Gun, 93 rounds expended, 507 remaining. RAM, 19 remaining, 2 rounds expended. SM-2, 24 loaded, not used. CIWS, not used. No hull impacts, no crew injuries. Cost, $167,400 gun plus $1.8 million RAM. Total, $1.97 million. Time, 35 minutes. The engagement was complete. No weapon had been fired against any contact that had not met the positive identification criteria. 21 fast attack craft had been neutralized. 31 fishing vessels were proceeding to port undamaged and unharmed. The damage assessment at 5:30 a.m. No hull damage, no fragment impacts, no personnel injuries. The gun barrel required the standard cool-down inspection after sustained engagement and was cleared as fully operational within 40 minutes. The RAM cells that had been expended showed no abnormalities. All systems fully operational. The magazine assessment was notable for what was full rather than what was empty. SM-6, 8 of 8 loaded. SM-2, 24 of 24 loaded. ESSM, 32 of 32 loaded. RAM, 19 of 21 remaining. CIWS forward, 100%. CIWS aft, 100%. 5-inch gun, 507 rounds of 600 remaining. Nearly the entire weapons inventory was intact. The engagement had been fought almost exclusively with the 5-inch gun and 2 RAM rounds. The cost of the engagement, gun ammunition and 2 RAM rounds, approximately $1.97 million total. The adversary had sent 21 fast attack craft concealed within a civilian fishing fleet. The operational concept was documented. It had been assessed in intelligence reports for 7 years and had been employed in prior incidents at smaller scale. The innovation was the scale and the ratio. 21 hostile contacts within 60 total produced a 35% hostile fraction that was high enough to represent a serious threat, but low enough that treating all 60 as hostile would have engaged 31 fishing vessels and their crews. The Seahawk had been the decisive system, not the weapons, the identification sensor. The helicopter had completed 60 individual vessel identifications in 35 minutes under engagement conditions, enabling the ship to apply the rules of engagement with precision that a non-sensor-equipped response could not have achieved. The supply officer assembled the accounting at 7 a.m. 21 IRGCN fast attack craft at an estimated $150,000 to $400,000 per vessel, call it $250,000 average, $5.25 million. The operational concept, positioning 21 craft within a civilian fishing fleet, coordinating their departure timing and approach bearing to maintain cover throughout the approach, required surveillance of the fishing fleet patterns, coordination with the civilian vessel's departure timing, and command and control architecture capable of holding 21 craft in cover formation for 30 to 35 minutes. Assessed cost, $500,000 in planning, intelligence, and communication infrastructure. Total adversary investment, approximately $5.75 million. U.S. munitions expended. 93 gun rounds at $1,800 to $100 to $67,400, 2 RAM at $900,000 to $1.8 million. Total, $1.97 million. Exchange ratio, 2.9 to 1 in the adversary's favor, the second lowest ratio in this analysis series. The engagement had been economically near favorable for the defense, the gun and 2 RAM rounds versus $5.75 million in vessels and operational infrastructure. The ratio reflected the reality that the gun was a highly cost-effective weapon against small, fast attack craft when identification could be established and engagement could proceed without restriction. The identification requirement was what had made the engagement expensive in time and cognitive load rather than in munitions. The 35 minutes required to identify 60 contacts under engagement conditions while simultaneously engaging confirmed threats and protecting confirmed civilians had been the operational challenge. The ship had solved it through the Seahawk's sensor capability and through a disciplined application of the engagement criteria that had never fired on an unidentified contact. One technical footnote in the after-action report: the 8 flag contacts that had never met the hostile criteria remained unresolved. 8 vessels with no fishing equipment, composite hulls, and crew in observation posture that had approached within 11 to 15 nautical miles and then turned for port as the hostile contacts around them were being engaged. They might have been empty fast attack craft sent as decoys to complicate the identification picture. They might have been genuine fishing vessels whose non-standard profile was explained by their being new to the Gulf fishing circuit and not yet equipped with the traditional gear. They might have been intelligence collection platforms observing the engagement from close range. The 8 vessels were transiting toward an Iranian port when last tracked by the Seahawk at the end of the engagement. The flag under which they operated was unconfirmed. Their actual nature was not established and could not be established without boarding. The rules of engagement had not been applied to them. They had not met the criteria. The ship had not fired on them. Whether that was the correct outcome depended on who they were. The ship would never know. Emergency resupply was not transmitted. The magazine was at 97% operational capacity. The ship resumed its patrol heading. The adversary had spent $5.75 million attempting to sink or damage a $2.2 billion warship using human shields as cover. They had failed tactically. They had succeeded in demonstrating in a live operational environment that the civilian cover approach could bring 21 fast attack craft to within 6 to 8 nautical miles of a U.S. destroyer before the engagement criteria were met for more than 2 contacts. 6 to 8 nautical miles was C-701 missile range from the IRGCN's primary anti-ship weapon. If the 21 fast attack craft had reached 8 nautical miles before the hostile criteria were established for most of them, the engagement would have been a missile defense problem rather than a gun problem. And a missile defense problem against 21 simultaneous launches at close range, with no outer ring warning time, with the defensive systems previously unprepared for a surface-to-surface engagement while monitoring an identification operation. The scenario in which the 21 contacts had held their cover until 8 nautical miles and then simultaneously launched C-701s was also a documented IRGCN operational concept. The ship had prevented that scenario by completing the identification operation before the contacts reached that range. By 22 minutes,